I'm Abby McEnany, and you're listening to You Might Know Her From with Ann and Damien. Boo! Okay, do it one more time. Wait, so what were you going to tell me, Ann? Is it too fast?
No, that was good.
No, what did you want me to do different?
No, nothing. I was into it. I liked that it sounded like you booed at the end of it, and I liked
I did. That was boo for me. That was boo for my performance. Okay, wait. Shit. Y'all, yeah, I'm really, see? Yeah, okay. Hi, I'm Abby McEnany, and you're listening to You Might Know Her From with Ann and Duncan. Not your name.
No, that's the one we're using. No, can we get your approval to use that one? It's so funny.
Oh my God, but then I'm such a bitch. Can you just put that into like, I'm such a bitch?
Yes. Okay, yes, that was so good. Oh God, that was so good.
Okay.
Ciao, bellos.
Bellows.
The masculine version of beautifuls. What's going on, babies? It is Damien.
And it is Anne over here on this side of the fence. How are you, honey bears? Welcome to another episode of You Might Know Her From with Damien and Anne.
We are so glad to be here with you. If you didn't pick up on my hello, that was in Italian. That I started to say ciao bellas a lot. Like my family would house party during the beginning of the lockdown, or all of the lockdown, and I started saying ciao bellas as my like log out line. So I'm bringing it back now. The older I get, the more pride I have in being Italian American, which is interesting. I'm not sure what it is. I think it's just grasping at identity.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like the closer you are to death, the closer you get to trying to grasp onto something that feels grounding in any way whatsoever. So you're like desperately trying to plant your feet while the world is like, I'm sucking you towards death.
This is very that. So as an Italian, I have to say I'm very upset to hear the news that Chris Pratt is playing Italian American icon Mario in the Mario and Luigi movie. What the fuck?
He sucks for so many reasons. And I was thinking about this because who's Luigi?
It's another not Italian.
It's like somebody I don't care about. And then I was thinking, like, do I really care about this? And I thought, yes, I do. And then I thought back to the Super Mario Brothers movie, which I loved. And I was like, well, Luigi was John Leguizamo and Mario is Bob Hoskins.
I feel less offended by it, I have to say.
None of that was offensive to me. That was perfect casting as far as I'm considered. And I remember that Joanna Cassidy on this very show told us that Bob Hoskins was a member of the mob. So in that way, I think that he is like honorary Italian.
And Samantha Mathis was Princess Peach in that movie, which I don't even know if we talked to about her when we interviewed her. A loss.
Look, Samantha Mathis was episode 1 of You Might Know Her From.
If you're listening, Sam, if you're listening, we are interested in doing another episode because we barely talked about Little Women, which is maybe in my top 20 favorite movies of all time, the 1991 version. And we also didn't talk about the Mario Brothers movie.
We were laughing recently about how we used to go into interviews with like no questions written. We did research, but it was like, things morph as you go on. And the longer we've done this show, the more research we want to do, the more prepared we want to be when we go into that room. And it was like, I remember I just had bullet points.
Well, we used to zero in on two credits that we were really excited about. And that's the thing we would talk about. And then everything else would be really vague. And I feel like now we really try to just find every nook and cranny that it exists. I mean, I don't know. Are there other casts? I think on this podcast, I've talked about my own issues with Moonstruck. And even though I recognize that Moonstruck is a classic American comedy, and I miss the fact that they don't really make movies like that anymore.
Yeah.
I do take some issue with the fact that Cher is not Italian. And then the premise is that she's an Italian-American girl. Like an Italian-American New Yorker.
No, and I'm neither Jewish nor Italian, so I don't know that it's really my place to have tons of opinions about any of this, except for you and I and my partner Hannah have been talking about this for years at this point. And we were on the couch and she was saying to me that she would rather maybe an Armenian play a Jew than an Italian play a Jew, but both are okay. But Armenians have faced genocide. So that is the hierarchical, that means they have the ability to play a Jew. I thought that was interesting. And also I've been talking with fan of the show, Lauren, about this very topic and about Maisel and about the casting of Catherine Hahn as Joan Rivers. And I was like, really? Catherine Hahn has made a career out of playing Jews at this point. And I love her. I think she's She's brilliant. I'm so happy for all of her success. But I just thought, like, really, it's not that hard to find a Jewish actress. And Joan Rivers is quintessentially Jewish. And so for me, I think it's like, if Jewishness is central or Italianness is central to the comedy, the culture, the characters, the very plot points of the piece, then I think you should really work hard to find a person that has that identity to play the role. It's not that hard. There's plenty of Italians and Jews.
Like Fanny Bryce. It's like Fanny Bryce.
Exactly like Fanny Bryce. And I'm excited. I'm hopeful that Beanie Feldstein will do a good job. I think they did the right thing by casting a Jewish woman in the role, as opposed to Lauren Ambrose, who was rumored to be heading up the last production that was foiled, thank God.
Well, hello again. And if you are new to the show, this is what we do. This is what we do here on You Might Know Her From. We, longtime friends, comedy partners, and actress aficionados, we meet, we talk about the things that are our mind grapes, the things we are thinking about, like this, and then we bookend a great interview with that BS. So we always have a great interview with a woman actor or a non-cis actor, and then it's all of our BS in between.
Ooh, and I just want to call back to last week's episode with Tina Majorino, which is our season premiere, where we were talking about the View podcast. And look, I listened to episode 2 with Sunny and Sherry Shepherd. It's totally worth your time. But in the week that has passed, so much happens in so little time. Sunny and Anna were diagnosed with COVID on air right before Kamala Harris was about to be brought out. So folks, if you're not listening to the View podcast yet, please do. Please dive in. Please go back and watch that shot of the two of them being asked to leave the stage and Joy Behar not knowing what is happening. I love the View. I miss the View. Ooh, it's so good to be back because we've got a platform to talk about every which way.
I love promoting other podcasts on our podcast. Also, have y'all watched the Tonys? Or I should say, did you watch the Tonys? They were on just the other night, and boy, were they weird. I would have to say, like, they were both really boring to me, and then also I was weeping. Yes, I felt like they were very special, but then also it was like at every turn, maybe much like this opening monologue or dialogue, it was just like, oh, I'm hate it. I'm into it. I hate it. I'm into it. Oh, this is special. This is perfect. Okay, they ended it perfectly. Actually, no, they didn't. Okay, goodbye.
Oh my God, I love the Tonys. I'm so glad theater is back. I'm also so glad to be back on this show with you, Damien, because we have one of the people that we have been most obsessed with over the last 2 years on our very show today. If you know this show, you know that we have been talking about Abby McEnany's Work in Progress since it premiered. If you're not watching it on Showtime, what are you doing? It's one of the best shows that we've seen in ages. We've been talking it up nonstop.
Also, I offered my login for free, you assholes, so take it. I will eventually have to change the password because too many weird things are showing up in the queue.
Get on board with Work in Progress. It's in season 2 right now. It is tackling things that nobody else does with such humor and grace. And we got to talk to Abby about being an improviser in Chicago, the creation of this show, which is like semi-autobiographical. If you haven't watched it yet, get into it. Get into this interview. We had a ball talking with her.
You might know her from our favorite show of the last few years, Work in Progress.
We are thrilled to be sitting down with actor, writer, and improviser Abby McEnany. Abby, welcome to You Might Know Her From.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. I didn't know we were starting, so oops.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're very professional.
So me too, as you've learned for the last few minutes. So hi, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's very kind. Thanks.
So we are just going to give our audience a little bit of background on you. You're a Chicago improviser, best known for your Showtime series Work in Progress, which Damien and I are huge fans of and have been talking about on this podcast since it premiered in 2019. We also had Theo Germain on our show.
Get out!
So for our listeners, Work in Progress is about Abby, a self-identified fat queer dyke who's navigating supposed adulthood while balancing her mental health. The show is sort of a queer Curb Your Enthusiasm, but with much more heart. Can you talk, Abby, about how you and your co-creator, Tim Mason, pitched the series to execs, and also how you got Lilly Wachowski on board as an EP?
Sure. Tim and I we created a pilot that got into Sundance. Sundance started to do an indie episodic category, and we entered in their second year, and we were lucky enough to get in. So we took the pilot to Sundance. Now, I'm friends with Lilly. I've known Lilly for probably 5 or 6 years. And so the people that signed on to be our EPs are with a management company called Circle of Confusion. Now, Lilly's management company also is Circle of Confusion. And so when our folks sent it to their boss, Lawrence, who's the head of Circle and Lilly's manager, Lilly had already sent like that first pilot. In the first scene in the pilot is this thing where Abby's talking to her therapist and the therapist dies. We shot that in 2016, and Lilly had seen it and offered to send it around. I was like, I don't know what that means, but sure. So, anyways, Lawrence was like, oh, that's Lily's friend. So called Lilly. Is like, hey, do you want to EP this thing? So we had coffee. She's like, do you want me to EP this thing? I'm like, do you want to? I don't think you want to. I don't think you want to leave this beautiful life that you've created for yourself. So I said no, and then like we met again, and she's like, I was like, no, okay, if you want to. So that's how she got involved. So really, the pilot was our pitch doc, right? Like it was all there, like it was all up there. We pitched around, but Showtime was just like the natural fit from the very beginning.
The show is like semi-autobiographical. Your character's name is Abby McEnany.
Yeah, big mistake. That was pretty stupid, but yeah.
Well, I guess, okay, so question is, do you regret that decision to name the character after yourself? And also, like, was it a mindfuck to cast actors to then play your, like, family members and also younger versions of yourself?
Yeah, so I think that, like, this is my first professional acting job, right? Like, I mean, I did, like, sketch stuff, and I never booked it. I auditioned for stuff. I never booked anything. So this is my first job, right? So, like, I didn't really understand. Like, I was like, yeah, I mean, of course it's named Abby McEnany. Like, I mean, looking back, I think now that more than 4 people have seen it, and, I'm very private, which doesn't track very well. Yeah, it was a mistake. I think people feel that they know me, and some things get very personal very quickly. But also, I'm pretty much a fucking homebody, so it's not like it's not a big deal. And like, I mean, anyways, it wasn't that much of a mindfuck because, like, really, the people, like, we changed it enough that it wasn't that much of a mindfuck to cast people like in Abby's family and the younger Abbies. It was pretty exciting when we auditioned. Like, we have some younger Abbies in this season, and the 2 young folks that play younger Abby are just so phenomenal. I mean, I'm just bowled over by both of them. That was really kind of a joy. One of the really exciting parts of being in the show and having this opportunity is like, why do I have this opportunity? I mean, we work with so many people, and like the Chicago, I mean, I can't say enough about how many amazing people are here. And that's just been a real fun thing to be able to have auditions and meet all these folks, and then also bring in folks that I know that are super talented and give them opportunities to book a role. And, sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, but hopefully we'll have more opportunities,
Yeah. I mean, you said that this is sort of your first professional, like, on-set gig. Like, have you felt the sort of doors open since Work in Progress has sort of progressed? They've got a second season. Are you interested in acting in other people's projects?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I just always wanted to be an actor, and that's what I love. And I love performing. I love improvising. The reason I write is so I can perform. And a couple things. One, there are not tons of roles for folks that look like me. Not to say that there aren't now. Like, there's certainly way more than there were, 20 years ago. And also, I'm a real shit auditioner. I mean, I wasn't like, once a year I get an audition, I didn't get called back, and rightly so. I mean, like, I just like, I really want to perform. I just really want to act, and I want to continue be able to do that. One of the heartbreaking things is during the pandemic, the theater where I performed with my improv group, Virgin Daiquiri, closed. The IO theater closed. Apparently there's a new buyer. I don't know what the status is, but like, all these small theaters, these live theaters have closed down, but I really love that. I'd love to act more. Yeah.
So Showtime positioned Work in Progress to air after the L Word Generation Q. And quite frankly, the show stands in stark contrast to the L Word, which is like very glossy and soapy.
Right.
So be honest, did you watch the original L Word?
Okay, so yes, I did. I mean, it was a big deal when it came out.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, a phenomenon, especially in the lesbo community here in Chicago. I mean, there would be, bars would have screenings and stuff. I probably watched the first few seasons, and then, I didn't love standing in a bar with a lot of folks looking like that. and then like, yeah. So I mean, I did watch. I didn't watch through the whole thing. I probably for a lot of reasons. One is I didn't see myself, yeah, and that doesn't take away the power of it.
Right.
So, here's a pitch. Here's a pitch from me and Anne. You and Campbell take a trip to LA and do a crossover ep where you're playing a poker game at Shane's.
Oh my God, could you imagine?
It's a pitch.
Could you imagine?
This is a pitch.
I mean, I have to say, like, Celeste and I were lucky enough to be able to go to the L Word Generation Q premiere in LA. I was like, what the fuck? This is bonkers. Like, that, I was like a Hollywood thing. I was like, what is happening? I mean, I'm a clumsy bitch. And I was like, what is happening? And then I never want to meet people that are like famous and stuff. I just like, especially like if I'm fans of theirs, like I get nervous. And then if they're like, dismissive, or then that's going to affect my feelings of their art and stuff.
Yes, totally.
And I remember like Leisha and Kate were leaving the after party. One of the publicists from Showtime was like, okay, you got to come. And like, I was like, nah, I'm good. You're like, no, you got to come. I'm like, no, I'm good. And I met them, and they're so wonderful and kind. And I did take a picture with Kate and Leisha, and I think I was bigger than both of them combined.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. But they were nothing but kind and lovely to me.
Did they watch the show?
Well, this was before it premiered, so I have no idea. And that's okay. Yeah. And I was like, I love Kate and
Ray Donovan.
And I was like, I think you do a great job, Ray Donovan. I just barf stuff. I'm just not good with that stuff, but I think it's really cool. But I still have that sort of excitement, as like the first time in Hollywood, like, oh my God, like what am I doing? Oh my gosh, do you see that? Ooh, that person over there. Okay, I don't. I mean, I just really, it's still all very exciting and new to me, and I still can't believe I get to be here. It's an amazing like gift or fortune, like, and I really am very aware of that. So like, I don't know. I think that's kind of a gift of getting it later in life, like I got it at 51, and I think it's pretty sweet.
Okay, so, as we were saying, like, we are so hungry for queer text and, like, queer media. That is, like, even though the L Word was glossy and, like, very much not me in 2002, whenever it premiered, 2003, it was exciting. Yeah. And so, like, what were the queer or, like, queer-adjacent things you were obsessed with as a young person? Because Damien and I sort of obsessively consume media and culture. Right. Were there things that were, like, if they weren't queer, did they feel queer in a way? Well,
Chrissy McNichol on this show called Family, she played a character named Buddy.
Yes.
Holy shit. And then she was in a movie called Little Darlings.
Yeah, with Tatum O'Neal.
Yes, and she fucks Matt Damon in it. I was like, 2 for 1. I mean, come on. Yeah, so Chrissy McNichol for sure was like oh my God.
Yeah, Chrissy McNichol is... I'm so happy for her also, like, having sort of a late in life renaissance for herself. Meaning, I think she's doing well, and we want to have her on the show.
Oh my gosh. Could I be in one of these squares just to listen?
Of course. We would have you on. We would have you.
No. I don't want to,
Abby, like, go on mute. Abby, you need to go on mute for this.
Chrissy, oh, Chrissy. She'd be like, get that bitch off of my screen. But, I was born in 68, right? So TV for me started like the 70s. Yeah, there certainly wasn't a lot of queer, and certainly like Buddy as a character, I think like I'm not the only like dyke who like calls her out, but it certainly wasn't queer character. It's kind of like my parents moved to Wisconsin in like 93. I remember the first time I was visiting them, and like they moved from San Francisco, right? So they moved to Wisconsin, and I remember the first time we were in like, what was it called, Dayton's, which is like the Macy's or something. And I was walking around with my sister, and I saw a queer guy, and we kind of gave each other the queer nod. Yeah. And I was like, I just did a queer nod. It's just like that sort of, and again, this was like mid 90s where it was just like, we are everywhere, but we're not out necessarily. But it was like, oh, we're safe. We're here in the pants section of Dayton's, and we're saying, hey, Bill, what's up? We don't have to say, And then also I had like massive crushes on Quincy M.E., Jack Klugman, huge crush on Quincy M.E.
Oh my God.
I know.
Okay,
I thought you were about to vomit, but like I was down to clown.
I like Jack Klugman. He also has a musical history, career in musicals. So
Get Out.
Yeah, I think Jack Klugman was in the original Gypsy. Yeah.
And the original Rent bits.
Absolutely. Yes. He was Roger.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there weren't tons of. Oh, and then, of course, the Bionic Woman. Hubbub. Yeah. So, but there wasn't tons, I think.
One of the things that we love about the show is that Julia Sweeney actually plays a huge part
in
season 1 and season 2.
Yeah.
So, you've said that Julia Sweeney's Saturday Night Live character, Pat, made your life a living hell. So this SNL bit was, essentially nobody knew what Pat's gender was. And it ended up becoming this very cruel 90s bit that just would not die. You wrote this into Work in Progress and actually got Julia Sweeney to play a version of herself on the show.
Right.
Your character confronts her about how damaging that portrayal was. So were you the person to approach Julia about coming on, or did you leave that to casting?
Oh, no. So, we brought her on for the pilot, and we Tim and I self-funded that. So, the show comes from a storytelling show I did called Work in Progress. Again, should have changed the name. I don't know. I'm new at this. And one of the story is, that Julia Sweeney ruined my life. And clearly not the case. But anyways, and Julie was actually, workshopping a one-person show at the Second City here, which, Tim and I have affiliation with. And when we were writing the pilot for the second time, we'd been working on it for a while, we're like, okay, we're going to write this again. And he was like, well, why don't we just put Julia in? I'm like, what? And he's like, no, we'll just put her in. So we wrote her in, and then we got our money together. It's like, oh, I guess we reach out. So we got our information from a producer at Second City, and Tim introduced himself and sent that therapist clip and was kind of explaining what the story was. And she was like, sounds good. I mean, it was outrageously cool. So when her show opened, we went the opening night and we met her after, and she's just a delight. And the thing I always have to say about Pat is when Pat came out, it was not harmful. I loved Pat. I was like, oh, I hope Pat's on this week. I loved Pat. And then, the more I started people, and it had been off the air for ages. It wasn't still being aired. Julie had been off SNL for ages. It was still kind of this icon of some sort. And then people started using it as a act of cruelty or bigotry or hatred towards me. And that's when it ruined my life. It wasn't when it came out. And that's also interesting. Times change and thinking changes and people grow, and which is such a beautiful thing. And then also, but boy, some people just hold on to that shit and they just bring it out. They bring it out and they can,
I feel like it's such a great way to sort of address our current moment. So it's sort of cancel culture meets actual celebrity accountability. And it's just shocking to sort of have her. Again, it's like she's playing a version of herself.
Right.
This isn't reality. But did you two have one-on-one talks about this leading into the filming, or? No,
I mean, it's funny because so we met her that night, and the next time we met her was on set. Subsequently, we've had conversations like she came to Sundance just so she would help us promote. I mean, it was just amazing. I can't tell you enough. I'll just say it, so generous to me and to the show. And we've had conversations, and I think we're not necessarily on the same page about how hurtful it can be. Mm-hmm. But also, not every human's on the same page, but we understand each other, I think. And it's just wonderful. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. But so we have had conversations, but not before. And she's never, what I think is so brilliant is that she's never been like, oh, I don't want your character to say this to me. It was never like, oh, wait, can I rewrite that? And that takes amazing wherewithal and also realization of this is actually Abby's, the character's point of view of what Pat is, and just not impinging on that art or that creativity or that point of view, which again, really, that's phenomenal. Who does that? Who lets other people take this thing that has, I don't know. I think it's just so wonderful.
So in the Work in Progress universe, Julia Sweeney's actually married to Weird Al Yankovic. Can you talk about how Weird Al got on board? Did you call a favor in?
Well, I mean, oh my gosh. Okay. So we were writing, it was like, oh, it'd be kind of funny if there was like another celebrity playing a heightened version of themselves. But the more I think it, he's playing a de-heightened version of himself.
Right.
Boring Al. Yeah, so like, honestly, we were like, oh, that would be so cool. Wrote him in, and then our management, like, I guess like that's how things go. And I don't know how this shit works, right? So like our producers called like his manager and like pitched it, and then he was like, okay. I was like, he said yes. Like what? Like this is just dreams. And that man, holy smokes. Fucking joy. That guy, I can't say enough good things about. I mean, really, he's so funny and generous. One of my favorite things is that he was only on set one day in the season 1. Everybody was kind of geeking out. They're like, oh my God, Weird Al's coming, Weird Al. And then I'd be like, oh, I'm not going to say hi, Weird Al. So I'd be like, hi, Al. Like, like taking out the weird and like kind of. And we were coming back. They were like doing a different setup. So they called us back and we were the first 2 back. And it was like, the scene is like when my date and I, Chris and I, like go to Julia's house and meet him. I can't remember which is the final thing that went in, but one of the takes is that Chris is like, ugh, Weird Al. Anyway, and so like, just a diss on Weird Al. So we came back and I was like, Al, I'm a huge fan. And I just want to say like, even though we have the character and I start bumbling a lot, he's like, yeah, Abby, I know, it's comedy. We were just emailing and I told him that. I was like, that was just such a highlight because it was like, yeah, I know. So it was like, it was hilarious, but it was also very kind, and like very like, dude, yeah, I get it. So, and then this season he's on and there's another kind of exchange where the person is like, whatever. And like, he just is down for that. He's just so funny.
But we were talking about Julia performing in Second City, and Chicago is certainly a character or a part of the fiber of Work in Progress.
For sure,
And
yeah.
you have been a Chicago improviser and comedian since the 1990s. So I was wondering if you can describe the comedy community there and like what has kept you there. Like, has there been a pull to move to LA or New York at any point?
Yeah, so I started taking classes in the late 90s, and then by the time, I'm just kind of, and again, this isn't, I have to say, I'm not putting myself down. It's just the way I learn and how I go through life. Like a lot of people just like take a class and they're like, let's put up live shows and stuff. And I'm like, take classes and then like, okay. And then it took me a long time to first get on a team or like, feel comfortable, whatever. So yeah, I've been performing for a very long time here. It's clear in the show that, and then this is very much based on my life that like, depression is a big part of me, or like I've had a lot of depressive episodes or like really hard times. And often it's like improv is the thing that gets me out of bed, like sometimes I'd go and play Virgin on like Wednesday nights and I'd be like, oh, these are the first people I'm talking to today. It was just, one of those things. And that I think Chicago is, it's just an improv city. Like people come here to learn and like there's just a lot of openness and it's so wonderful. Now, of course, there are people like who are like, I've got to do this and this and this and this and this. That's just never been my jam because probably the lack of belief in myself. It's not like, oh, this is going to happen and then this and this is like, oh, I'm never going to get that. I'm never going to get that. Just keep on doing the work. Learn, have fun, meet these wonderful people. Like improv is like, it's all about trust, right? And this bitch, me, those listening, I'm pointing to myself, has a hard time trusting, right? So like then you're thrown out on this stage and you're with these folks and it just sends this beautiful, I just think it's the most beautiful art with the really high probability of fucking not being great, which I think is also like hilarious. Like, it's like, what are we doing? We're trying. And when it kills, it fucking is brilliant.
Yeah.
I think there was somewhat a pull to go to LA. I thought about it a little bit. Anyways, it never felt right. I think I moved around a lot as a kid. And I know it's really weird. Like I just moved around a lot and had to start anew so many times. I moved here for college and stayed. And I think there is that fear of like starting again. And I don't know. I mean, I just went out to LA for like, we had a panel for the premiere weekend and I don't know, there are like a lot of people out there that are friends of mine. Like, I mean, that I met here that are doing the work out there. Like, I don't know, 30, 35 folks. So it's like, it'd be a soft landing. I just love it. I just love it here.
Look, I'm a Midwesterner at heart. I love Chicago.
Okay.
And I feel like I love it when we get to talk to artists that have chosen to live in a city or a place outside of New York or LA, because they're like, I'm saner here. I love my life. I love the culture of this town. I can now fly to go do work whenever I need to. And so much of that makes so much sense, because I feel like when you're in the industry early on, there's all this pressure of people telling you, like, you have to be here because this is where the work is. And I think it's shifted. And so it's nice to hear of people like making artistic homes in places that are not New York or LA.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like, when we dreamt of like, what did we get to sell this? And like, what it's like, it was always one of our first asks would be like, can we please do it here? The fact that Lilly lives here and signed on, I was like, okay, it's a done deal. Like,
that's amazing.
Because people are like, we're going to do it in her hometown. So that worked out very well. It is such a dream,
Okay, so in season 1, Abby was struggling with so much of like the internal forces of her OCD and her depression. As we get to season 2, it's sort of exciting because we see her dealing with the same things, but in somewhat of a happier place. Even though she's mourning a relationship, she still has this very full life that you've painted. She's got this great friendship with Campbell and her CPAP machine. She got a promotion. We love that she has, like, there's not tension between you and your sister or your new step family. Like, Abby has a great life there.
Yeah.
Then the pandemic hits. And so we were both sort of gobsmacked by this, because we've heard you talk about how you didn't want Abby to just have a broken heart, get over it, have a new love interest in season 2, that you weren't interested in that.
Yeah.
But when COVID hit, we were so shocked. Like, did you make that decision in the writer's room? And was it almost a helpful tool to sort of shake up Abby's world for season 2? How did you come to that?
We were writing pre-pandemic. So we started writing on like February 11th, I think, of 2020. We were going to have 6 weeks with writers here in Chicago. And we did like 4 weeks. And then, all this stuff was kind of coming out. And everybody except for me and Lilly were from LA, New York, or Sam Irby, God bless. I don't know if y'all know. Oh, so great. She lives in Kalamazoo. So all of them were not local. That's how many double negatives in there. And Kate has a child. So my friend Kate James, wonderful, would fly home every weekend to spend time with her husband and her kid. And so she would kind of give us the running update of like what's happening at O'Hare, what's happening on the plane, what's New York like, Week 5, we were here. And then that Friday was our last day together. Everybody flew home. We did a week virtually. And we had already had our whole season was laid out. We had the first 7 episodes. We had the first drafts of. We knew what we were going to do in the last 3. And then, this global pandemic happens. We didn't know, we still don't, but we didn't know is this is this really happening? Are we going to be locked down forever? Or is there, will this be out and about in summer? It was very difficult, obviously, to kind of figure out what the deal was. And it was just Lilly and me writing now. And we had notes calls and stuff of what we had created. We ended up having to throw out 2.5 episodes. And then we had to reconfigure what happens. And so it really did change. It changed the whole season, obviously, because when we started, there was no pandemic.
Yeah.
So that was a really big kind of thing. And I remember we had notes early on. I would say in April. And it was you got to put the pandemic in the show. And also I'm not a snowflake. So many people have this reaction of I can't even function. I can't leave my home. I'm so nervous, I was told them, I was I don't want to write a show about a pandemic. I don't want to act in a show about a pandemic. And I certainly don't want to watch a show about a pandemic. And this was the first or second month. And then it came as time went by and of course we put it in, and it makes a lot of sense, especially since the finale of our season 1 is this big event, and we pick up season 2 kind of at the event or remembering the event. Yeah. So, I mean, we had to put it in, and also that's the reality. Lilly and I were very adamant to each other. We didn't have to, it's not we had to fight for this, but we were we're not writing a show. Some people reach out hey, would you mind doing a PSA about how to wash your hands? I'm look, this isn't fun for me. Washing my hands and teaching people to wash hands, this is my nightmare. So no. And I just think it's kind of this glib way to look at somebody with OCD and oh, how does somebody deal with a pandemic? It's how do we get out of bed? With anxiety and depression and OCD and stuff, again, I'm the luckiest. I could pay my rent. I could go to my therapist online. I could pay for my meds. My family was safe. I was safe. I don't want to say like things were harder. Things were easier for me than anybody. Like, I don't want to be like one of those people God, I was really suffering. However, like the pandemic happened to everybody. We wanted to show it like how we see it. It's not about like, wow, everything's shutting. That was a really conscious choice. And then, the murder of George Floyd, and then the protests and all that stuff. So that was really something that we explored later in the season. And anyways, that's how we came about it. So it was, but again, we started like Lilly and I, we were like, it was in our last week of shooting. We're like, remember, we started we started on February 4th, and then the writers kept, on a Tuesday, the writers came the following Monday. We're like, we started on February 4th, 2020, and it is now like May 26th of 2021. And again, God bless. I was like, we're gonna get canceled. I'm so glad we got to do it.
Do you have a vision for like future seasons, or do you have a vision of like where it all goes in the end?
I think this was never a love story. Like Anne, like you said that you all had read something about like I just hate that old trope of like people are only happy and that you don't have value and stuff, and people are only interested in people with partners. And as somebody who's been single for a long time and isn't crying about it, like, like if people are like, oh, are you dating somebody? And they say no, and they go, oh, I'm like, no, it's good. It's good. Like, It's like that whole trope of bullshit that we've been taught, especially as girls from birth, that you only have value if somebody like loves you in a romantic way. Like it angers me. And I think it's bullshit. And I think it takes away a lot of people's power and worth. Wow.
1,000% agree. I think it's what we love about the show, because
Totally.
It really isn't interested in that at all.
There are so many other things to worry about other than being single. Like,
And it's like, and also, right. And also I'm not worried about it. I was like, hooking up, good, fun, can be, I don't know, dead inside for a while, y'all. I mean,
yes.
But I mean, life is so much more than that. And I think it's just something, again, like, and then also as like a fat person who is told also by society that nobody would love you, or you're not worthy of this thing that is afforded to everybody else who is thin, and they're the ones that have value. I think that it's just a lot of levels of import to me. Yeah. Awkward silence.
No.
It's transitional silence.
It's me,
sorry.
Me doing my best Whoopi Goldberg and doing a nice segue into...
I'm really impressed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Abby McEnany, we have entered the part of the show that we call our rapid fire. This is really rapid fire for me and Anne, because we are throwing a lot of disparate things at you. But you can take your time if needed. If you want to be rapid, please, baby, try. But
baby, I love that. Like, I love that Davey knows me well enough. If you want to be, you weren't even like, do it. You were like, try. Okay, boo. You try, baby girl.
Sometimes guests get scared at the rapid fire, so we never want them to feel like they have to be.
Oh, bitch, I'm scared all the time. Okay.
Okay. Abby's drink of choice on Work in Progress is a Miller Lite. Have you been approached by them for a sponsorship? And if not, what the fuck can we do to make it happen?
No. And man, you know what I want is some coveralls. I'm really looking for some coveralls with a Miller Lite patch.
Okay, Showtime needs to make that sort of.
I gotta say, like, our producer, like Josh Adler, calling you out. Like, he was like, "Yeah, we'll get those for you." It's been 3 years, Josh. Get me some fucking coveralls.
All right, Josh. What the fuck? I'm gonna tweet. I'm gonna tweet at him.
Hi, Josh. Big fan, Josh. Okay.
Okay, Abby, one of the things we love about the show is how it portrays young, queer GNC folks and older lesbians and dykes finding common ground. If we were to come to Chicago today, what is one like young, hot, queer thing you take us to? And what is like the old school dyke thing you take us to?
I have no idea. I mean, there were some like these like young like queers on our show, on our crew, and I'd be like, oh, and also of course we're shooting during the pandemic and stuff, but like while we're coming out, like the mask mandate dropped at the very end of our shooting, and I kind of overheard like, oh, there was a queer dance party. Oh, ooh, that sounds like fun. I'm like, they're like, Grandma, we can't bring you fucking old bitch. We're not bringing you old fucking queer dyke to this thing. So honestly, I have no idea. And since I'm not on the social media, I don't know. If you could find out, let's go do it.
Great.
All right.
We're on it.
And then the Old Dyke thing. There's like a lovely bar here that I love. It's not. It's like for all. It's all for all queers. It's called Big Chicks, and again, it's just kind of opening. It's obviously not at full force, but that's like the best queer bar here. Big Chicks. Okay. Yeah. But also, if you get some heads up on some cool stuff,
we're sending it your way.
Seriously. And also, like, I don't know how I'm going to get in. They're like, no, get away. I'm like, oh, I forgot my Metamucil.
Don't worry. We've always got backup. I always got a tablespoon and a Ziploc for you.
They're like, oh, what are you bringing on the plane, Damien? Black Tar Harriet? It's Metamucil for my old friend, Abby.
Okay, so Anne and I both cut our teeth doing comedy in New York and always had a great time assessing how folks treated us in the green room before or after shows.
Ooh.
In your opinion, who is fucking weirder, improvisers or stand-ups?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not really around stand-ups that much. Yeah, so I don't know. I've done, like, I would go and try to do, like, every once in a while open mics. I think, like, stand-ups also, like, come at me, bros. But like in my experience, which is very limited, it's like it's very cliquey, it's very male oriented, it's very cis het oriented. Yes. And sometimes, and I haven't been to an open mic for a while, and sometimes I go watch a friend at a set, or like doing like, you know, a showcase or something. And it was just like, I mean, I kind of would sit there and like kind of white knuckle it, like, and if I could get out with like 4 fat women jokes and 2 rape jokes, I thought it was a win.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know what that's like now, but I just felt like it was slower to get there. And then it's all like, oh, you're PC. It's like, well, no, I mean, I'm kind of, you know, against.
Your jokes are lazy and bad.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and then of course, anyway. So I would say, so that's not really. I don't know who's weirder. I feel way more comfortable in the improv community. And also, like, you know, I've been in it for a long time, so I wouldn't say, like, you know, audiences weren't like, oh, wow, look at that fat dyke up there with her overalls. We love her. You know, I mean, like, doing improv in the late 90s wasn't like, oh, yeah, let's dig into whatever that bitch has to say. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just in a, you know.
Okay.
I mean, just the dulcet tones. I have poetic words coming out. I mean, come on.
Okay. The first season of Work in Progress finds Abby counting down her theoretical last days with 180 almonds. What is the significance of almonds? Why not macadamia or Brazil?
So almonds, like, it's just a thing, like, for fat folks. People are like, oh, just have some almonds. Like, have 6 almonds. And it's good for protein, and it'll tide over your appetite. So I find them very shaming. Also, I hate them. And I love the only nut I really like is peanuts, which is like the
not a nut.
It's the people's nut.
It's a big bean.
Yeah, the people's nut.
Okay, first of all, that sounds like a good movie. That sounds like an amateur porn on hey, the people's nut.
Anne loves Anne loves Mr. Peanut. She's like very into him.
Okay.
He's my favorite. He's very dapper. He wears no pants.
Okay. So he's your Jack Klugman from Kinsey ME. Gotcha. Yeah, anyways. So that's the significance. And I just think that it was certainly like in weight stuff. Like it was just something that like society pulls at you. So what, like my boss at work gives me a jug of almonds. And so it's just very like, that's pointed. Like have 6 of these. And it'll tide you over. It's a thing you won't like eat bad stuff, and you're going to feel better. You're going to lose weight and then become worthy. So that's why.
We are obsessed with the film Bound, starring Jennifer Tilly and Gina Gershon. Have you ever talked to your friend Lilly Wachowski about how it is queer canon?
You know, it's so fun. Okay. I mean, y'all are very like up to date on like, and also I know this movie was so long ago, but like I have no idea of film and stuff. I didn't know until months after I think we even started working on it. I was like, you want to direct your Bound? And this is what I told her. She knows I'm so prudish. I'm a sex positive prude. I'm like, girl, every queer woman in the city was like, we got to go to Bound. And I was like, I don't know. And I went there with my friend, and she was like, oh, that was so amazing. I was so uncomfortable. Because it's so sexual. It is queer canon, and it's so amazing. And this is me, like, you did. I mean, she's just like, I think she's always like, my partner is the biggest idiot toolbox on the face of the planet. I'm like, you ain't wrong, girl. Like, you are correct. I am a fucking toolbox. So, I mean, we've talked about it in that way, but I try not to ask her specific questions. I don't want to, like, I don't know. It's just this weird thing I have. Like, I have some friends that work at SNL and I've been on it or like, write for it. And I'm never like, so what is your day like? Because I don't want to like intrude or like seem like I want something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think she's always like, what am I doing? I don't know. I don't know.
Can I tell you that I watched Bound for the first time with my brother? He was like, this is an amazing movie. We need to watch it. So we watched it with our mom.
Okay. And?
I mean, she was uncomfortable, but I think we were both fine. So it was all okay.
And wait, like, was this recently or like you said just now?
No, when I watched it was maybe like, I don't know, 10 years ago now. So a long.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Okay, Abby, there's an upcoming episode called Eleanor Roosevelt, and we are very hyped about it. She's definitely who I would have been cast in a middle school production of Annie.
Oh my gosh.
In the spirit of Eleanor Roosevelt, name your top 5 favorite queer women.
Oh, I mean, Eleanor Roosevelt.
She's up there.
Come on. She is like, she rules. And also, can I tell a quick story?
Yeah.
Okay, so I used to have these sunglasses, and my eyes are so bad, I can't just buy sunglasses. They were prescription. And they were like very, like, I looked back, I was like, God, they were kind of big and I thought pretty feminine. But like, I was in Maine doing improv for a month or a couple weeks. And my friend, we were driving and I put on my sunglasses and I was like, and I always thought I looked like Jackie O in them. Like, I just, and I was like, these are my Jackie O glasses. Like, I just so much look like Jackie O. So I'm in the front and I go, hey, Mike, what former first lady do I look like? And he was like, Eleanor Roosevelt? It's my favorite story. It was like, we howled so hard. I'm like, no, Jackie O. He's like, bitch, please. Oh gosh, I mean, God, that's a lot. That's a big. I also hate lists because when we get off, I'm like, I can't believe I didn't say this person. Yeah.
We can honor Eleanor. She can be all 5.
Yeah, I mean, these are 2 current queer women that I am just very in awe of. Rachel Maddow, like, who's so smart. She's just smart and like knows how to explain things, and she's making change by being like the most powerful hour, and like people. I don't know. I think that her career has been like it's moved the needle forward. I think I've just been like in that industry, and I don't know. I'm in awe of her. And then Alison Bechdel, of course. Like, holy shit! I know. I'm just like, holy smokes! Like. She was at the UFC several years ago, probably, and she was doing like a fellowship or something, and for a quarter, I think. I don't know. And a friend of mine works at the Center of Gender and Sexuality, and she was like, "Hey, you want to come down to Hyde Park?" And because Alison Bechdel's going to be at this thing, I'm like, "No!" And this goes back to not wanting to meet people, right? I didn't want to meet her because I was like, "Oh my God, if she thinks I'm like, it'll ruin so much."
Right.
So those I'd say
very solid. I just finished her new book. I thought it was excellent.
Oh, I have that. Okay. I'm excited. At first I was like, oh God, is it about, you have to be thin and work out? But people are like, that's not what it's about.
It's really about like her own mental health and growth.
Which I love.
Very into it.
And seriously, I mean, I love that all queer women are like, oh, Ring of Keys. That is like a siren song. Oh God, Ring of Keys.
It really is.
Like, she's so wonderful. So, yeah.
Okay, final question. Very important.
Okay.
We've heard you discuss how much you love Law and Order. So, fuck, marry, kill. Mariska Hargitay, Jerry Orbach, or Vincent D'Onofrio. And Vincent D'Onofrio. Fuck, marry, kill. Mariska, Jerry, Vincent.
Fuck Vincent. Holy shit. Are you fucking kidding me?
I love your love for Vincent.
Oh my God. I can't tell you. He's so awesome. And he's so smart. And he's so, oh my God. So definitely. And then marry Mariska. And then I say kill Jerry Orbach because he's already dead. So like, like, so, and I love like Jerry Orbach, God bless. But like Vincent D'Onofrio. So Lilly got us gift baskets the first thing. And then can you see that? She cut those out.
Wait, that's amazing.
Yeah. So they're like, she like, printed those out and put they're like 3 color printouts of Vincent D'Onofrio. I mean,
Folks, we're looking at a collage of Vincent D'Onofrio.
I mean, he is. I just, and honestly, and like, not to be disrespectful to this man who has a family and a loving wife, and it's a joke, but like, holy shit.
Can I tell you a great story about Vincent D'Onofrio?
No, thanks. Just bits.
So on this show, we talked about it. So
you talked to him?
No.
Okay.
We
Only women and non-cis men.
Okay.
So Brooke Smith, who played Catherine Martin in Silence of the Lambs, the woman who's in the well.
Oh my gosh, yes.
She was a guest on our show, and we talked to her about how Vincent D'Onofrio, she knew him somehow, or like he was in an acting class with like her friend, and he was like, I had to gain weight for, Full Metal Jacket, and he was like, and it cost me like a lot of money. Make sure the studio gives you a credit card when you have, because she had to gain weight or something for Silence of the Lambs. And I was like, well, I'm a forever fan of Vincent D'Onofrio now, because he made sure that she wasn't out of pocket for her milkshakes and burgers.
I mean, God bless. And she had a hell of a career.
Yeah, totally.
Rules. Yeah, he seems very of like a real person defender. My God. Anyways.
Abby McEnany, this has been a total joy. Thank you so much for joining us on this show.
I'm thrilled. Thank you so much. It was really nice to meet you both, Anne and Davian. Thank you so much.
Okay, here's the thing. You never know what you're going to get with someone. In the reveal of Abby telling us, like, here are things that we discussed. Christy McNichol, Mr. Peanut, Vincent D'Onofrio, Alison Bechdel. She contains multitudes, and she was giving me everything I needed, including being sexually attracted to Jack Klugman. I just didn't know we were going to reach all the depths that we were going to with Abby.
I needed to look Klugman up. I needed to see how he looked. I was pleased with it.
Yeah. He's got like a strong jaw, strong nose.
Folks, I really can't encourage you more to watch Work in Progress. Again, if you need a login for Showtime, I'm more than happy to share. The show is so excellent, and I really want more folks to see it because I want more seasons of it. I love that this show exists, and I also think it is actually very funny and very smart and very heartfelt, very sweet and very weird. And I like all of those things about it. I think it is worth your time. So please watch the pilot and let us know what you think.
We will start bullying you if you haven't responded to our tweets and our DMs.
So if you're new to the podcast, you might not know this, but every week what we now do is we connect the week's guest to the upcoming episode. We blanket it up in some sort of blind item because we are children of the Ted Casablanca era. So usually we are just connecting through like 100 ways to get to next week's guest. My cohort, Anne, is going to do it for us. We've eliminated men from the equation, so now we are only connecting by non-men. And let me know how Abby McEnany connects to next week's mystery guest, please.
Okay, here we go. Abby is, of course, in Work in Progress with Julia Sweeney, who was, of course, the star of It's Pat, also starring Kathy Najimy, who was, of course, in Sister Act with previous guest of the show, Wendy McKenna, who was in Serving in Silence, the Margaretta Kammermeyer story with Judy Davis, who was in Celebrity with Allison Janney, who was on The West Wing with next week's guest. She was a guest star. She had a really nice arc that was written for Angela Bassett.
She also had there's a great story in our interview where she name checks Allison Janney in a very surprising way.
It took me out. So get on board. Let us know if you figured out who next week's guest is.
Folks, if you like what we're putting down, won't you please do us the great honor of leaving us a review on iTunes? It's the best thing you can do to keep this podcast going. We don't need much, but we just need an emoji or a few words to just let us know what you think. We would greatly appreciate it. It helps us boost in the algorithm. It helps us keep doing this thing that we so love to do.
And of course, please follow us on social media. You can find me at Rodeman, that's RODEMANNE, and you can find my ginger Italian friend over here at Damian Bellino everywhere. You can go on social media, DAMIANBELLINO. Everybody's getting spelled out today.
You Might Know Her From is produced by us. That would be me, Damian Bellino, almost named Santino Bellino, and my friend over here, Anne Libra Rodeman.
Extra special thanks to our consultants at Grumpy Entertainment. That's Jason Jude Hill and Daniel Sears. They are two wonderful men who happen to be husbands and our consultants here at You Might Know Her From. And of course, all of that silky smooth editing that you hear is courtesy of Daniel Sears.
Also, a very special thanks to Gang for all that music you hear. My voice is probably over a bed of it right now. Can you even believe? Gang's music underscores each and every one of our episodes, and you can find their music wherever you listen to your bops.
Folks, check out the show notes. I spent a lot of time putting pictures of Jack Klugman in there. It's just for you.
So for the second time over the course of coronavirus pandemic, I got lost on your birthday.
Damien can never make it there. Last year was in a park that you've been to a handful of times. You somehow found yourself like 400 feet down on Broadway when you should have been 400 feet up.
I did. This week it was more about timing and just like misunderstanding. I actually was in the right place.
It's charming in its way that almost how many years into living in New York
like
City?
16.
Yeah, I love you for it. I'm going to get you a compass for your birthday.